Welcome to Rock Cabal Live, the internet's newest music source, giving artists and musicians the voice to be heard. And now, on with the show, you filthy animals.
This is Mike Edgley with rockcabal.com. I'm in studio with Jason Wilkes from The Voice. How's it going, Wilkes?
It's going good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. So, doing a little bit of research on you. Of course, I've seen you on The Voice. Pretty wild, man. You got some pipes on you, dude. I'm just gonna tell you right up front.
Thank you.
Yeah, seriously. First off, I've never seen anybody play anything by Dylan's Kid that I thought was ever well done. And like, you blew me away with that. The first time I saw it, I was like, what? Me and my wife were both going, wow, that's crazy. It was such a good rendition. That, especially that chorus, man. I saw, watching the guys, he's like, okay, if he does the chorus good, I'll turn around. And I was like, dude, you're going to turn around no matter what you do. So yeah, I was blown away, man, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so now
that song's a bit of a tall order considering who the lead singer is akin to. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. And like the chorus, you just like nailed that so good. I couldn't even believe it.
Thank you.
So now, I've never been to Cedartown, Georgia. That's where you're from, correct?
Yeah, I grew up born and raised and grew up in Cedartown, Georgia, and I now live in Waleska, Georgia.
Nice. Okay, now is that far distance from where you grew up or not really?
No, not really. It's like an hour.
Now, doing a little bit of background, I didn't know a lot about you, so of course, I'm going to do some background, And there was a band, High Flight Society, that you opened for Sam Hunt at one point. And so talk to me a little bit about how you started getting into music, especially in Christian music, which is a really hard thing to get into and very pigeonholed, you know what I mean? Because some people have false ideas about it, So if you could kind of explain to me how you got into that, how you got into music and how you became the musician you are going into up to the High Flight Society.
Yeah. Well, growing up, I listened to everything under the sun. The things that inspired me to actually want to be a musician was things like Michael Jackson. And even though I'm not like the biggest hardcore Beatles fan in the world, I do love the Beatles. But there was a few Beatles songs that kind of got to me as a kid, and a bunch of that kind of like a little bit of rock and a little bit of pop and some Southern gospel sprinkled in there because I sang with my brother and sister, and all that stuff kind of collided when I was young and kind of lit this inescapable music kind of flame inside of me that I wouldn't have been able to run away from if I tried. But eventually in high school, long story short, my friends had a band called High Flight Society, and they had just named it that, switched over from another band name, decided they needed a lead singer because the guitar player didn't want to sing anymore. And I was friends with them. They asked me if I wanted to be the singer, and we were kind of off to the races at that point. We had a 12-year run in High Flight Society, so it was quite a stint that we did. But our entrance into the Christian music industry was actually a little funny because we didn't set out necessarily to be a Christian band. Not that we were trying to avoid the Christian industry. I'm very grateful for my years in the Christian music industry, but we weren't necessarily looking to be a Christian band. We were just a rock band, like pop rock, Jimmy Eat World, kind of Foo Fighters kind of thing. And one thing led to another. We played a talent search thing at a thing called Atlanta Fest, was this big Christian music festival, and we were kind of discovered there and ended up getting a developmental deal and eventually ended up being stamped in the Christian industry, which to say that we weren't looking for it is one thing, but at the same time we were very open to it because obviously we are very avid, upfront believers and had no issue with being in the Christian music industry. We just never necessarily set out with that goal originally, but it worked out, and we kind of, like you said, it can be a little bit closed off in that industry, just as any other industry for different reasons. But somehow we were able to penetrate it well enough to have a bit of a career in it, so it worked out.
There's quite a few Christian bands that I'm familiar with that definitely have done that too. It's very cool. I mean, I thought you started off just as that. I mean, I was just assuming maybe you sang in church and kind of went from that route, like a lot of people in that industry do. So to hear that, you just kind of joined this high school band, that's pretty wild, man. Now, I'm assuming they chose you because of your voice in the first place, because again, it's pretty crazy, man. You got some sweet pipes for sure.
Yeah, I was known as the guy, one of the guys in high school that kind of, if somebody needed somebody to sing something, I was one of the people that was asked. I was one of the singers in our small high school, so they knew that I was the singer guy. And also, even though, like I said, we weren't necessarily looking to be a Christian market band, it was a staple of our band, and we wanted everybody in the band to be on the same page and believe the same things, and our songs were about that. So the fact that I was a believer like them had a lot to do with it too. So that was part of the consideration. And I did actually grow up singing in church, singing Southern gospel with my family. So there is that connection of a background there.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about the band Disciple? How did that, I mean, you played bass in that band and sang backups, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So that was metal, right? That was like a metal type, like really heavy band. Am I right or no?
Yeah. Disciple is a lot heavier than High Flight was. We would kind of tinker in metal. Like Disciple started a long time ago with a very kind of Pantera sound, and over the years has kind of developed in a lot of different ways. It's some people still call parts of it metal, and some actual metalheads don't like for Disciple to be labeled metal. So it kind of lingers in the middle, but it's definitely a lot harder of a rock band than High Flight Society ever was.
Yeah, I think
so,
a lot of these.
The way that I got into that band was through High Flight Society. Actually, we toured with Disciple.
I find that with every band, man. I think every band that's metal starts out as Pantera. I'm not kidding. It's like we all listen to that and we're like, we got to have that sound. And then through time, you kind of weed it out. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. And then shortly after that, well, maybe not shortly after, but then you released an EP called No Filter Part 1. And can you tell me a little bit about that whole, like, what was your journey from Disciple to doing that? And then the transition until you in your mind was like, you know what? I'm going to go for this voice thing and see what happens. You know, I kind of want to know the story from when you made this EP, which this EP was done through like a GoFundMe, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Cool.
It was actually it's kind of a bit of a long story that I'll condense to as short as I can. But in Disciple, a lot of people, even the Disciple guys and a lot of the Disciple fan base, know that even though I really love being in that band and I love the music we wrote, love performing, that type of music is my favorite to perform. But when it comes down to me as an artist, I'm not really all that much of a rock guy. I'm a very pop rock guy. So when I came out of Disciple and decided to do my own thing, I decided to go back and do more of what is actually me, which actually even precurses High Flight, because what is me is very pop, also rock, but it also has some country. Like I love country songs and I love the country lyric. So basically after all that, when I made No Filter, I decided I'm just going to do what comes out. Literally the reason I named it No Filter is because I didn't put a filter on it at all. I wrote songs, and how they came out, I recorded them. And then in the recording process, we didn't use any vocal tuning or anything like that. We just left it as no filter as possible. So it's kind of all-encompassing title there. But that was basically me making my segue transition into, hey, this is what I actually sound like by myself without the filter of my friends weighing in and, being in bands. Like this is what I sound like. So, we did that. Me and my buddy Shane, my guitar player, we recorded it in my little basement studio by ourselves, and then mixed and mastered it ourselves. And the GoFundMe project was basically to fund actually the time that me and Shane put into being down there, just so that we could allot the time to be down there, which wasn't very much at all. So it ended up being super great. Turned out really great, and I gave it away for free. So
I've never went that route. I thought about doing a GoFundMe for a similar kind of project. I never did it. I've seen a lot of success in it. So, I mean, that's awesome that you went that route with it. And of course I was thinking, oh man, he must have GoFunded me the whole album, like entirely. But you just used it just to get down there and do it. And then everything was raw. And that raw thing, man, that's kind of the in thing right now. I'm noticing that just more bands are kind of leaving the bar scene. It's mostly bar and clubs, and even bigger venues are solo acts, acoustic acts, and like 2-piece groups. It's like really crazy how that's kind of coming back around. The whole Paul Simon ideal is coming back around, It's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ed Sheeran is the biggest artist in the world right now, and he does it by himself.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, so I got to ask you, I've read it before of why you picked Blake Shelton, because it was, someone you could get along with, like co-working with, and you can get along with a person. You guys kind of like immediately like hit it off, So I have to ask you, so how was that been? Now that you got in there, you're working with them, do you find it as smooth as you thought? Are you getting any kind of hurdles, anything that you guys, are kind of hitting walls with, or maybe not? Maybe you guys are just, maybe it's just amazing all the way around, right?
Yeah. It has been. It's been exactly what I'd hoped for. Like, we don't even, if anybody that knows me knows that I'm more on the introverted side of the spectrum. I love being on stage. I love entertaining. I love being that guy on stage, but off the stage, I'm very to myself, and I'm very quiet, and I'm standoffish, and I'm very shy and extremely introverted. So me and Blake having that commonality between us was really important. And the way that it's played out is basically I can walk into a room with Blake, and he says, "Hey man, how's it going?" And I say, "It's going great. How are you?" And he says, "Great." And then we played the song. I play the song through. He listens to it, and if he has some pointers, he gives me the pointers, and if he doesn't, he doesn't, and we high-five each other on the way out. There's no – the way his personality is, he doesn't have to have all of this crazy engagement back and forth for him to know that I'm glad to be there. And that's very important to me, because I can put off the vibe of, wow, this guy's not even – he's not even into this right now, because he's not even talking, when in reality that's just me. And I knew going in that Blake, being from where he was and having the background he has, he would understand me, because he knows people like me. So it's worked out perfectly. It's been amazing.
Right. Now that you put it like that, I can totally see how like Levine was saying, like in your face, boom, 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 like really exciting. Like, let's just, yeah, where Blake seems to be kind of a laid back cat, just kind of chill. I mean, I could totally see that. Yeah, I could totally see that happening.
And I do really love Adam Levine's music. I love Maroon 5, and I do think we would have gotten along great. But for me, being the type of personality that I am, it would have been a little more mentally exhausting for me in those scenarios. And in this type of thing, I need to save every ounce of energy I possibly can.
Oh, right, man. Yeah, you can't. I mean, the way you're going into that mentally is half the challenge I find with performers. You're kind of leaps and bounds ahead of that, and knowing where you should go and knowing where your energy should be to be able to do what you need to do to be able to do what you're going to do, what you're going to do or trying to do. And so I can totally say that, like picking Blake, going, look, I know it's going to be walk into the thing. He's going to go, what's up? We're done. And then do your thing. And then now your energy is saved towards performance and getting ready and vocal. And yeah, man, that's really, really level headed and very smart. And I'm telling you, so far, performance wise, man, like, I got to be honest, I've only watched The Voice maybe a few times in my whole life. Like a couple times I'll see an artist and go, whoa, wait a minute. So I'll kind of follow it for a little bit. But I'll tell you, when I got a hold of Jeremy, and Jeremy said, look, I was talking to, getting Jason on so you guys could talk. And I'm like, what? It's like, that dude. Oh, I was like, that's crazy. Because your voice is so stellar, man. I was super impressed. With One Headlight, man. That blew my mind. And I'll tell you, I'm not that the other performances weren't good. I'm just saying, man, like that song, because I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be up front. I'm not a big Dylan fan as far as, Jacob, and I'm not big, and I don't like his band that much. And that song was a really well-written song, but I never heard anybody do it really good. And then you did it, and I was like, get out of town. Because it was like super good. If you could record, dude, if you could re-record that song, I would buy that album in a second. So now coming back into that, so now you're in the midst of all this going on. I have to ask you two like really cool questions that to me are really cool questions that I think are important, especially for who you are and what you're doing. One, where did you make that leap into country pop artist? Because so far it's been pop and like I would say like the metalheads call pseudo metal, whatever, but metal, hard rock, So where did you find where you were like, look, I'm going to be a country pop artist. This is what I'm going to write. This is what I'm going to do. Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, that actually, it's been really surprising to people that don't know me, the people that try to just read me on surface level, and pretty much all of my fan base from High Flight and Disciple. It's been surprising, but where that comes from is actually predates High Flight Society. It came from the very beginning when what people don't know is when John Packer, the bass player of High Flight Society, who I grew up with, when he came to me in high school and said, "Hey, would you want to possibly be the lead singer of our band?" I was like, "Absolutely, that sounds amazing. I would love to come give it a shot." And then in the back of my head, I was thinking, "Oh crap, they're a rock band. They're like a pop rock band." So I was into Foo Fighters and Jimmy Eat World a lot at that time. So I really leaned on Foo Fighters and Jimmy Eat World to try to develop a rock voice, because I didn't have one, because I sang Michael Jackson and Brian McKnight and boy band music and country music and Southern gospel, which is basically, it's pretty much country music as far as the vocal delivery goes. So I had to develop a rock voice for High Flight Society. And then you can actually hear it if you listen to High Flight's debut record. It's just self-titled High Flight Society. You can tell by listening that I don't really know where I'm at vocally in a rock band. I'm pushing way too hard and borderline just hollering half the time. And throughout High Flight's records, you can hear me finding my voice in the rock industry. And that whole journey ended up being now 17 years in the rock industry, but I had to develop my rock self specifically for that. So where this transition came in, I had already decided I was going to go back, just like going back to No Filter, just whatever comes out of me, which at this point includes the Jimmy Eat World, the Killers type vibe, because I love that. But it goes back to my roots of the songs that I really love are country songs that stems from Alan Jackson and Garth Brooks and John Michael Montgomery and all that stuff I listened to when I was a kid. I love those stories and I love that lyric, but I also love the delivery of pop music, the way that Michael Jackson delivers melodies and the hi-fi sound of pop, and also got this rock thing in me over that 17 years of rock music. So now I just basically decided to take the filter away, take everything off in the front, and just let it come out how it comes out. And the way that comes out is, on paper, I write country songs, and that's what, I mean, if you were to read my lyrics, you'd be like, this is a country song. But if you listen to my music and forget about the lyrics, you're like, oh, this is kind of a pop rock. This is a pop rock guy. This might even be a band. But when you combine the two, it's just, I don't really know how to explain it. That's what it is. It's country songs with a pop rock delivery. So it's been a long process of getting there, but it all predates before I even started doing the rock music thing. And now it's me embracing every bit of my musical self and just kind of putting it out there together in one package.
Whether or not the voice becomes whatever it is, right? My last question for you, and really my last two questions, okay? One, what are your plans for an album? What do you think you're going to do? Just to take the voice right out of it. Say you just, did your thing and then now, boom, an album. What is going to be your next album? What do you think you're going to focus on? And then what do you think the impact working with that industry, with the Christian industry, what kind of impact are you trying to, if any, are you trying to make with that following? You know what I mean? Like with everybody that's into that music or even not into that music. Like, what's your goals on that?
My goals overall, I think one of the main reasons I'm stoked about doing this show is to, on a national level, put myself out there as what I am when I do things by myself, which is what you're hearing. It's kind of a pop rock, kind of a country thing, which is hopefully going to be a little more solidified to the world throughout the process of this show. And actually, in addition to No Filter, I put out a song recently called Stealing from Heaven, which is the first thing under the name Wilkes that I've done that's fully produced. It's not just a kind of a No Filter acoustic thing. It's a fully produced thing. And it's kind of a taste of what I would do. I guess genre-wise, it's a kind of Jimmy Eat World, The Killers meets Keith Urban kind of thing. Song-wise, it's very country songs. Sounds pop rock, just as I've said before. But I think the vision that comes out of my time in the Christian music industry, and honestly, not even just the Christian music industry. I mean, I became a believer when I was 8 years old, and that's been the backbone of everything I've ever done has been, if God wants me to do this, I'm going to do this. And if he tells me no, I'm not going to do it. But surprisingly, when The Voice came about and I got the opportunity to do The Voice, I actually said no. And then my wife and my guitar player told me to look more into it. And then I got a very clear yes that God wanted me to do this. And so that literally leads every aspect of what I do. So even though what I'm doing is not Christian music per se, I don't sing songs that I don't think could impact somebody in some way. Even if it's just a love song, I want people to be inspired to fall in love. If I write a song about my wife, I want them to, if it's a song about a breakup, I want them to feel better about breakups they've been through. Like I'm not one to play music just for the sake of playing music. It has to inspire or move somebody somewhere. So I would say sound and genre-wise aside, the biggest goal for me musically will be and has always been the lyric to the song itself, and then the emotional impact behind the song. It has to move somebody in some sort of positive direction.
Well, that's all she wrote today, man. Thanks a lot for giving me your time today. Voice or not voice, that album comes out, I'm going to get it. I'm definitely, I'm a new fan of yours, so it's going to take me a little bit to kind of dig back. I'm going to listen to all this old stuff. I'm going to go out and find it, and I know where to find it. So I'm going to take a little listen to it. Knowing a little bit more about it now, it's kind of cool to listen back and then think about the things you were telling me, and because I'm about that too. The lyrical content and the journey of it all is just amazing. Dude, I wish you the best of luck on The Voice. I hope it's all you, man. I really do.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And we'll talk to you soon. And make sure everybody out there, get on The Voice, man. Check out Mr. Wilkes. Wilkes, new album coming soon.
Thanks, man. I've got tons of songs already in the queue. So
nice.
As soon as I get the go ahead on, regardless of what happens, when I can do it, it'll be out there. So I'll make it very evident on social media. So
we'll all be watching, man. We'll all be watching for sure. All right, man. Take care.
All right, you too.
Thanks for listening to Rock Cabal Live. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Spotify. Like our page for giveaways and more.